Good evening. Welcome to the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County Candidate Forum. My name is Patty Lackman, and I am the Voter Service Chair for the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. Tonight's forum is for the candidates running in contested races for Sugar Grove Fire Protection District, Waubonsee Community College Trustee, Village of Sugar Grove Trustee, and Village of Sugar Grove President. Last time we had one for you guys, it was in the basement of the community center, so this much better digs, and thank you for coming out tonight. We have partnered with the Sugar Grove Library and the Sugar Grove Chamber of Commerce on this event. Tonight, I want to thank Jenna Mickey, Director of the Sugar Grove Library, who's over here helping us as a question reviewer, Kira LaFond and Jacqueline Link, CEO and President of the Sugar Grove Chamber, who greeted you when you walked in the door. Would also like to thank Waubonsee Community College President Brian Knettel, the event staff, and the IT technical staff at Waubonsee for helping make tonight's event happen. Tonight's forum is being live streamed by BATV in the back of the room on their YouTube channel 1017. Thanks to Andrew Van Meter and Audrey Karp for being our great connection to outside viewers. The tape will be posted on the websites of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County and on the Illinois Voter Guide. The League of Women Voters has a long history of conducting candidate forums, and we are widely considered to be one of the most capable, nonpartisan organizations in this regard. Some of you might be old enough to remember when we used to handle the debates for the presidential candidates. The media took it over, and it just went to hell in a handbasket. I don't know about that, so. The League likens a candidate forum to that of a job interview that gives the voting public the opportunity to see and hear candidates that answer questions about issues that are important to them and to their families. Tonight's moderator for the forum is Jan Dorner, who is the President and Voter Service Chair for the Elmhurst League of Women Voters. I'd like to welcome Jan.
Thank you, Patty. Welcome to the Candidate Forum put on by the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. Again, my name is Jan Dorner, and I'm from the League of Women Voters of Elmhurst. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. The League's purpose is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation of citizens in government. Providing this forum allows citizens to become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. We are happy to provide this service for the community. At this time, I would ask that you please turn off cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. No campaign literature may be passed out in this room. Note cards and pencils have been provided on which to submit your questions. Questions will be screened only for duplication, clarity, and appropriateness to the office being discussed. Please submit questions for all candidates participating in the forum. Please signal a League volunteer when your question is ready for submission. Also signal a volunteer if additional note cards are needed. Realize that we may not get to all questions. So let's start with our first forum. Can I ask the candidates for the Sugar Grove Fire Protection Trustee members to please come on up. Thank you. This forum is for those seeking to be a Sugar Grove Fire Protection Trustee member for a 6-year term. All candidates running in a contested race were invited, but candidate David Blankenship has not responded. There are 2 open positions. Tonight, our 2 candidates are Timothy Cicero and Susan Cuomo. They will each present a 1-minute introductory statement, the order determined alphabetically by last name. Then questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements and continuing alpha rotation will also be 1 minute. League of Women Voters Central Kane County members will keep time, and candidates will strictly adhere to the time limits. Candidates, please notice the timers right up in front. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence. All right, so let's start with candidate Cicero, your 1-minute statement.
Thank you. There we go. Got to press the button. All right, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for having us here today, and thank you all for coming to this. My name is Tim Cicero. I've been in the village for 10 years now. I am currently on the village board. On the Sugar Grove Fire District board. I was elected 6 years ago. I was in the basement with you guys. Check. Good. Try that. Check. Okay.
Why don't you start over?
All right. Thank you guys again for coming. Tim Cicero, I moved here 10 years ago. Since I moved here, I now have 4 young children who are all in the Caneland School District. I recently moved behind the library. I'm on Ridgeview Lane now with my beautiful family. Again, I've been on currently on the Sugar Grove Fire Board for the past 6 years. We have come a long way from when I got elected 6 years ago. And we have the throttle all the way down, moving the fire district in a positive way. We literally have invested much more money since I got on the board. And recently, we just got an agreement with Waubonsie Community College. We're going to start looking at conjoining ourselves, using our monies for each other, and we're going to hopefully get a burn tower in the town of Sugar Grove to help everybody to save lives for the citizens in Sugar Grove. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo, your 1-minute statement.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me tonight. My name is Sue Cuomo. My husband and I moved to Settlers Ridge in Sugar Grove 4.5 years ago. I have 4 adult children that I raised in Oswego and now 6 grandchildren. And I'm very nervous. This is the first time I've done anything like this, so I did write notes. The fire service is an essential part of our community, and it is very personal to me. My father was a Chicago firefighter, and so I grew up with the deep respect for the bravery, the dedication, and the sacrifice that our first responders make every day. I want to ensure our firefighters have the resources they need to protect our community while being fiscally responsible to our taxpayer dollars. I am running because I believe we should have a private citizen on the board to be your voice, ask questions, to make informed decisions, advocate for transparency, and the highest level of service for our community.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo, how do you see the role of the Fire Protection District trustee in balancing the needs of the community with available resources?
I think I heard all of it. I believe that we need to do what's best for our firefighters and paramedics for the department, as well as be living within a budget for our citizens. We need to make sure safety is a priority, whether it be their clothing, or their other materials that they use, but we need to live within a budget. I feel that all forms of government overspend and just think they can keep getting money from the taxpayers. And I think we need to ask more questions before we make decisions.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero, same question.
Thank you. So, like I said, over the past few years, we've really invested our money for the town of Sugar Grove and for the entire fire district. With the collaboration of the Waubonsie Community College, as we're looking forward to the future of saving lives and protecting not only life, but also property. So we constantly are doing a budget, obviously, every year, but then we do a forecasted budget for every 5 to 10 years so that we could plan for those ambulances, for those fire trucks, for our gear, for our personnel. We're currently at a line that we've been consistent with the same level of firefighters throughout the fire district. And since then, if you haven't seen, every Wednesday night where we have new candidates out there from 16 years old to 21 years old so that we could get more people trained being young. So we're very, very lucky that we're giving that opportunity so that we can grow for Sugar Grove, because we know that it's growing. So we have to be ready for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero, what is your understanding of the district's current financial status, and how will you ensure the responsible use of taxpayer dollars in maintaining or improving service?
The fire chief who we have, Chief Brendan Moran, when he got appointed, or when he got the job as the fire chief, he looked into every single cent being spent at the fire district. Before that, the fire chief, we did not know. We had to ask a lot of questions. Now, it's all presented to us every single month, and the budget is lined up, and we have other professional agencies that are also helping us with our budget. So I'm a full-time firefighter in the town of Carroll Stream. I am not good with numbers, but that's why we hire professionals to help us and to guide us in our investing, and also for what we're going to be spending in the near future. So we're constantly looking at our budget every single month. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo, same question.
Okay. Being that I'm not currently on the board, I don't have as many details, obviously, or experience with that as Tim does, but I do know that in all forms, and I know even with these guys, there is some places that more questions could be asked. We could be cutting back. We don't need to buy a $6,000 standing desk when we can get one cheaper. That still gives us the same benefits. I do believe the places we can't cut are in their protective gear, in our equipment, and things like that. But there's also other areas that we can be monitoring a little bit closer to save some extra money to stay in the budget.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo, what are your thoughts on the potential need for expanding fire protection services, such as increasing staffing or acquiring additional equipment?
I do believe we do need to be looking into the future because Sugar Grove is growing. I know in my subdivision alone, they're putting in a whole new area in. They're building a couple hundred houses in there within the next couple of years. We do need to be looking at a forecast to be expanding our department, both another building as well as the staffing, the ambulances as well as the fire trucks. So there's still a lot of growth, and we've got to try to do that without skyrocketing everybody's taxes.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero.
Beginning in January of this year, actually it was December, Sugar Grove Fire District started staffing their second ambulance, which hasn't been done fully since I've been on the board for 6 years. What that means for our citizens is if an ambulance comes and gets you and you already pay your taxes, you don't have to pay that bill. It will go to your insurance, and your insurance will pay something, obviously, and then the rest of it, the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District writes off. Now that we have 2 staffed ambulances, same thing. Before, in November, if a Big Rock or an Elburn or another ambulance would come, they would come and pick up a Sugar Grove resident, and then they would have to bill you because they're from a different fire district. We're taking care of that by having more staff members and also having that second ambulance up and running constantly 24/7. And over the past few months, there's only been one time that we had to take someone to the hospital that was from another town, another ambulance coming into Sugar Grove. So that's saving the taxpayers a lot of money.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero, what measures would you implement to ensure the Fire Protection District is transparent and accountable to the community regarding its decisions, budgets, and spending?
As every board does, we have our agenda posted, and we have public meetings. And I invite any single person. There's not many people at our board meetings. But I hope, I mean, just see what happened at Canelan a couple months ago. It was late to the game and nobody knew what was going on. I invite people to come to our board meetings. I want you to hear what we're doing, and I don't want it to be after the fact saying, well, why did you do this? Well, because we have to start advancing and anticipating for the future of Sugar Grove. TIF or not, we're a fire protection district. If the town's growing, we're going to respond. If someone's driving through our town and they get in a car accident, we don't ask them any questions except for how can we help you? That's the job of the Carroll Stream Fire, that's where I work, the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District. We're here to respond and we're here to help save lives and protect property. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo.
Same thing. I do agree that people need to come to more board meetings to be informed, especially with Sugar Grove growing and them wanting to put in another fire department, People need to come and be informed and find out where the budget information is. And I think the best thing we can do is just make sure that we get information out to the residents ahead of time while decisions are being made, so anybody who wants to come and participate and bring up questions at the meetings is there to do so, because during their meetings, they have time where residents can stand up and ask questions. They have an opportunity for all of us to do that. And I just think that maybe we need to put it out a little bit more and invite people to come.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo. What is your stance on the integration of new technologies, for instance, drones and data analysis, into fire management practices, and how would you implement them?
I don't have a lot of background in any of that, but I do believe with technology today, drones are used for so many things and it can be used beneficial. Again, depending on cost and what the benefits are, the benefits need to outweigh the cost, or they need to be balanced. If it's a big benefit, then we need to look at where we're going to pull the money from and how we're going to get that money. Again, it's what's going to benefit our firefighters, our paramedics, and our team so that they can take care of the citizens of the community. That should be the top priority.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero.
So the advancements are outstanding. What's out there in firefighting is it's exceeding what we're doing. We're not fighting fires with buckets anymore, obviously, but we're taking way advancements. But what's great about Sugar Grove and the surrounding towns is, do we need drones in Sugar Grove? No. But if the police department gets one and we could work with them to make, if someone's missing, or if there was an accident and there was an ejection of somebody and we needed a drone with thermal imaging to see if a hot body is 50 yards away, then that's good. But don't forget that we also have a mutual aid box alarm system in the state of Illinois. So if we need help from someone else and they have the capacity to help us in dive, in trench rescue, and other type of rescues, they come to us, and vice versa. Sugar Grove has a lot of hazardous materials technicians. So if Elburn has a big hazardous material spill, then Sugar Grove can give them personnel to help them, and vice versa. So the technologies are out there. Maybe we don't need to fully have them, but we could ask our neighboring towns to help us with if they have the money for it.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero, how will you advocate for the district's needs when it comes to state or federal funding for fire protection and emergency response services?
So there's multiple grants out there. I mean, every year there's small tools grants, there's emergency medical services grants, from if you can get an automatic CPR machine to a fire extinguisher prop that could come to any business in Sugar Grove and teach the employees there on how to extinguish a fire. So there's so many out there, and the fire chief and his battalion chiefs and all the other staff there, they have been getting grants. I can't name them off the top of my head right now, but we are constantly investigating and looking into, and then it takes a lot of time to write those grants. You have to get deep. You have to show all of your spending that you've been. You have to show that you need it for your town. And it takes time, but it's well worth it. And we're definitely using it already, and I foresee us using it in the near future also.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo?
I would do whatever they need. If they need me to if being on the board, if they need me to write letters, they need me to get in contact with a certain department, they need the help, whatever they would need to go after those grants or to get the necessary funding, whatever they would need me to do, I would be willing to do it outside of those board meetings once a month. So whatever help I could possibly give, I would give.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo? How would you address the increasing demand for emergency services, and what steps would you take to ensure adequate resources for both fire and medical emergencies?
Currently, at this time, from what I've witnessed at the board meetings, when they give the number of calls they've had, especially with the senior residents we've had, that's where it seems like a lot of their ambulance calls go. They seem to be doing very well with the equipment, the staffing that they currently have. They seem to be handling all the calls and not needing outside help. So right now, I think they're currently staffed well. Again, if they need extra help, that would be brought to the board and things would be voted on. And the top priority is citizens' safety. And that's what these guys are here to do. So that's got to stay a top priority.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero?
So every 3 to 4 months, the fire chief, Brennan Moran, and the new deputy chief, James Weaver, they started doing this thing called a hot map. And it's in the firehouse. If you want to stop by and you want to look at it, you're more than welcome to. And it literally shows yellow where it's not that busy, orange where it gets a little more call volume, and then red where it's very dense. And like we were saying, the red spot are those more retirement homes. But those are documented. Every call is documented, and it's able to be jotted down on this huge map that tells us where the more calls are being had. Yes, we do get some calls down on the south side, but unfortunately, it's not enough to get a station down there. But we do have that mutual aid agreement with the towns to the south of us, where if we need them, they will come to us on that south side. And that's why we're looking at the burn tower that's going to be on Denny Road, hopefully. And then eventually through phase 3, we're going to be able to get a station there, because we don't know what it's going to be like in 5 to 10 years. But we already have that land, and we're going to work with that because we already have it secured.
Candidate Cicero, what do you believe are the most pressing challenges facing the Fire Protection District today, and how do you propose addressing them?
So I feel this personally because I am a full-time firefighter. I've been a firefighter for 20 years. When I took a test back then, there was 300 plus applicants. In Sugar Grove, our last full-time test was 7. 7 people who were eligible to take our test. The problem is we need more young people coming from our high schools and start knowing. Now, that's the great thing that Chief Moran started in the last year, that we have these young 16, 17-year-olds starting to learn what it is to be a firefighter. I'm not saying it's for everyone, but that's the impressionable age of kids. We all remember being in high school. We didn't want to be there. We wanted to see what we wanted to do when we get out of that place. So we're starting to form opinions of firefighters, and not just firefighters, but also paramedics. Paramedic program is a year long. It's not simple. I'm not a brainiac. It was really hard for me to get through it. But once you get through it, then you could be a full-time firefighter, and then that's going to get you on the road to success. So it's a big problem,
Thank you.
But we're hitting it hard.
Thank you. Candidate Cuomo?
We can have open houses and invite the high schoolers in to give them information. We can work with Waubonsee Community College, even COD, even some of the other communities, Joliet Junior College, to get kids that are thinking about or take a fire safety class. Okay, well, you're in a class, and they're not really sure. My youngest son, he's in finance. He took fire safety. He thought he was going to do what Grandpa did, and he went, I don't think it's for me. But maybe if he had somebody that could bring him into the fire department, explain more to him, let him ask questions, maybe have some more hands-on, people talking, explaining things, asking questions, maybe we could get more kiddos to look at this as a career.
Thank you. Let's move to our closing statements. So let's start with candidate Cuomo. You have 1 minute.
If I'm your fire district trustee, I will bring both passion and accountability to this role as well as a fresh perspective. Again, we don't have any private citizens on the board, and that's where I believe I would be a fresh perspective. I understand the challenges and sacrifices that come with this profession, and I will work to support our firefighters while ensuring responsibility and decision-making for our community. Our fire district plays a critical role in our public safety, and I believe we need leadership that's transparent, accountable, and in the interest of the people. I also, in my personal job, I have to do budgets, and I have to live within a budget. And it's not always easy, but I spend the money like it's my own, not like it is my company's money. And that is one of the things I want to bring to the board are more questions before we make decisions. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Candidate Cicero, your closing statement.
I love Sugar Grove. I moved here 10 years ago not knowing what it was. My mom thought I was moving to Iowa. I'm here. I love it. I just moved recently, like I said, last year, and I am in love with where I live. And I love the people that I live around. I love seeing people at Jewel, at other grocery stores around town in the sports. But what means most to me is your guys' protection and the safety of you guys. And also fire prevention. We didn't say anything about that, but we're here to also prevent fire from happening. And if you don't know Wayne Parson, I don't know if you're a Sugar Grove resident, but everyone knows Wayne, and he's doing great things for the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District. So what I need to do is I just need to keep doing what I did for these 6 years. And if I could be on for another 6 years, the sky is the limit for the Sugar Grove Fire Protection District and protecting the citizens of not only Sugar Grove, but also the surrounding area of this Sugar Grove Fire Protection District. Thank you.
Thank you. Our time is up for this section of the forum. Your participation as a candidate and as a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear. For more information, please visit the Nonpartisan Voter Guide, illinoisvoterguide.org, the candidates' websites, as well as the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County. So let's give these candidates a round of applause.
Thank you.
And will the Wabansie trustee candidates please come forward?
Just as Wilson. You can put your name. Tell me what it is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Madeline Wilson. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so this part of our candidate forum is for those seeking to be a Wabansie Community College trustee for a 6-year term. All candidates running in a contested race were invited, but candidate Greg Dobbins has not responded. There are 2 openings. Our candidates tonight are Daniel Jaquez and Tina Medlin Wilson. They'll each present a 1-minute introductory statement. They are determined alphabetically by last name. Then questions will be asked, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond in alternating order. Closing statements, again, continuing alpha rotation, will also be 1 minute. And The league members will again keep time. Candidates, please notice the timers. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence. So let's start with Daniel Jaquez. Your opening statement, 1 minute.
Check, check, 1, 2. Good evening. My name is Daniel Jaquez, and I am honored to be running for re-election to Waubonsee Community College Board of Trustees. As a proud Waubonsee alumnus, my journey here began as a student leader, serving as a student senator, executive vice president of the Student Senate, student trustee, president of Latinos Unidos. Academically, I graduated with honors, earned the prestigious Lincoln Academy Student Laureate Award, and continued my education at Northern Illinois University, where I remained dedicated to leadership and service. Personally, I bring experience as an audit leader, real estate broker, and investor, while also giving back through organizations like Shriners Children's Hospital, We Can Achieve Foundation, the ARP Foundation, which provides scholarships to students. My commitment to Waubonsee has led me to serve on the Board of Trustees, where I have worked to support student success and strengthen our community. I am running for re-election because I believe in Waubonsee's mission and want to ensure that every student has access to the same transformative opportunities that I had. With your support, I will continue to advocate for strong academic programs, financial responsibility. Thank you.
Tina Medlin Wilson, you have 1 minute.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us here, and thank you so much to the League for hosting these events. As she mentioned, I'm Tina Medlin Wilson. I am. Oh, is that better? Okay. Would you like me to start over? Yes. Okay. Good evening. Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Tina Medlin Wilson. I'm also running for re-election for my second term on the Waubonsee Community College Board. I have lived in this area for pretty much my entire life, and I attended Kaneland High School and graduated more years ago than I want to talk about. But I have always driven past Waubonsee and really enjoyed attending events and taking classes here when I was in high school. I moved away for about a decade and lived in Champaign-Urbana. And when I came back, I found that I really wanted to find a place to contribute that related to my personal and professional interests. I've spent a lot of my career working in adult education and training and workforce development. And I currently work in grants administration for behavioral health and public health programs. But higher ed and lifelong learning are a real passion of mine, and so I really wanted to contribute by facilitating access for all students to accomplish their future goals.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson. How do you see the role of a trustee in ensuring the college's long-term success?
So when I first joined the board, it was actually a real journey to me to figure out what a board member actually does. And I've really developed an interest in the policy and governance role, and I really work hard to draw the line between my role as a board member and our involvement in day-to-day operations. The college is an enormous operation, and there's no way that we can try to micromanage or dictate things that happen on a day-to-day basis. I'm currently the chair of our policy committee, and we're working on revamping our entire policy manual. And I think that will be really critical to guide the college for the next decade, because that is really where our role is, to set the stage. How do we make decisions about our financial well-being, our investments? Where do we focus our efforts on guiding faculty, administrators on how to do their work and how to engage with the community?
Thank you. Candidate Jaquez.
Yeah, so as an auditor, I specialize in technology audit, so ensuring that we have proper controls in place, that we have proper policies. I also sit on the policy committee with Trustee Wilson, but also ensuring that we have sound fiscal responsibility in our day-to-day. I think Waubonsee has prided itself in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Jaquez. What steps would you take to ensure board decisions are made in the best interest of students and the community?
What steps would I'm sorry?
What steps would you take to ensure board decisions are made in the best interest of students and the community?
Being involved in the community and reaching out, being the community's college, I think is important. I was a part of the workshops where we visited with stakeholders and reaching out to our stakeholders and being the college's community, or the community's college, and ensuring that we have addressed with employers. There's programs that, partnering with the Sugar Grove Fire Department and things of that nature.
Thank you. Candidate Madeline Wilson.
I think trying to be transparent and engaging with all of our stakeholders to build on that is really our the best action we can take. I bring my perspective, and we're fortunate to have a very diverse board. We have attorneys, we have an auditor. I always joke that I was the English major in college, so I can edit everything. But the value of the board is really that it brings this multitude of voices from all areas of the community, and we really work hard to ensure that we're listening to all the voices that sit at the table and encourage those voices to connect to different nonprofit organizations, businesses, all students, faculty, and staff, and really try to gather all the information we can to identify what the needs are and how we can meet them.
Thank you. Candidate Madeline Wilson. With rising costs in higher education, how would you plan to ensure fiscal responsibility while maintaining affordability for students?
From the first time I ran, I always focus on the student and the barriers to students that keep them from both getting to the classroom and staying in the classroom and succeeding there. And those are all three very different things. And the fiscal elements of attending college, while Waubonsie strives to be very, very affordable, we recently voted to approve student per hour fees by about $3 per credit hour. And that's our general practice, to have incremental increases each year, because we don't want to get ourselves into a situation where we have to make substantial changes by freezing the costs over time. But it's really important to focus on not just the fiscal aspects, we are doing our best of that, but also the other barriers that are getting in the way of students, including things like childcare and transportation and how they meet their basic needs. And so we can focus on all of those areas to try to help students and maintain access to education at Waubonsie.
Thank you. Candidate Hagas.
To build upon Trustee Wilson's comment, we did raise the fees by $3, but generally, in comparison to our peers, we're still relatively affordable. But there's a fine balance we need to have while inflation and keeping up with costs. We also want to ensure that our faculty and staff are well rewarded, prepared, and have the tools necessary in order to deliver top-line, state-of-the-art technology to deliver quality service to our students.
Thank you. Candidate Hagas. How will you evaluate the effectiveness of programs and spending to ensure taxpayers and students receive the best value?
We evaluate the performance of programs, enrollment. One of the, with the building of the tech center, I think that's one of the great needs of the community. We have programs that have waiting lists to get in because there's just not enough space. So ensuring that there's enough space and programs available to meet the community needs is what we do as a board to ensure that we meet the college's goals and initiatives.
Candidate Madeline Wilson.
We collect and report on a significant amount of data at Waubonsie, but I think one of the most critical questions is how many students and how many members of the community are involved in the services we provide. As we all know, COVID caused a significant impact to all educational facilities over the past several years. But it's very exciting when we look at our recruitment and retention numbers, to see that our retention numbers this semester are 15% higher than they were last spring. So we believe students are coming back and students are staying, and we're working really hard to make that happen. And that ties back to those barriers that I mentioned earlier. We have a scholarship called the Waubonsie Success Scholarship that is a last dollar funding scholarship. We are collecting data on the impacts of that are not just fiscal, but we're showing that students who receive that scholarship may not have to work quite so many hours, and they're doing better in their classes. They're better able to focus, they're staying in school, and so there are lots of levels that we can work to address those barriers and try to measure our success.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson. How can the college better prepare students for the workforce and align academic programs with job market demands?
So we are really working through our new strategic plan to connect more effectively with our community and the businesses in our community. Education, higher ed is changing dramatically. There's a lot of competition. Large businesses are creating their own training processes upon hire. But there is actually plenty of evidence out there that shows that community colleges deliver soft skill training, workforce skills that actually save those businesses time and money. So as long as we continue to build those relationships within the community and identify what courses and what training systems they need, then we think we can more effectively meet the needs of the community.
Thank you. Candidate Jaquez?
Sorry, can you repeat that question one more time? Speaking to the mic a little closer, please.
Sure. How can the college better prepare students for the workforce and align academic programs with job market demands?
So the college has taken steps to meet that need. So we set up, like I said, community workshops. We met with the medical community, and one of the things that they said, that there was a need for like a nursing program, a night school, to meet that demand, so that they could work during the day and then come to school in the evening. So those are just some examples of what the college is already doing to ensure that we meet the community's need to provide the programs for our students to be successful.
Candidate Jaquez, what is your stance on expanding vocational training, apprenticeships, and dual credit programs with local high schools?
What is my stance? I am in favor of that. I think it's time well spent, resources well spent. Anything we can do to better prepare the children of our future, the better served the community is in doing so. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that question. Would you
Sure.
mind reading it?
What is your stance on expanding vocational training, apprenticeships, and dual credit programs with local high schools?
I think almost all of our students today need some sort of post-high school education to be successful. But I believe we should build the pathways that get everyone a career they're interested in, that pays their way, and so they can be successful in the future. And I think there's plenty of evidence that shows that all three of those pathways can work for the right student. Dual enrollment is a really exciting, there's been a really exciting increase in dual enrollment in our district. I still think we have opportunities to make it more equitable, because that same service is not available at all of the same high school districts. But we've seen a lot of success in our high school students who are attending dual enrollment classes. It's a win-win situation. They are able to leave high school with college credit, which reduces the amount of funding or amount of dollars they have to spend after high school to complete their degree. And we're often able to connect with students and help them get to know Waubonsie. So I think all three of those pathways are really exciting opportunities.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson, how should the college address student mental health and support services?
Student well-being is should always be top of mind. I've worked in higher ed for a long time, primarily in workforce training, and I think we all can attest that people have a really hard time contributing effectively if their mental health is not in the space where it needs to be for them to function in a positive way. I'm excited that Waubonsie has really taken some steps by hiring psychology, an increased number of counselors for students, decreasing the ratio of counselor per student overall, and we are really working on reducing the stigma of mental health care across the campus.
Thank you. Candidate Hagas?
Yeah, no, thank you for asking that question. I think mental health is very important. As we all know, being able to concentrate and do well in school has a lot to do with being able to focus and having support groups, community outreach. So one of the things that the college has done is created support networks for students to access in their needs.
Thank you. Candidate Hagas, how can the college better engage with underserved or non-traditional students, such as adult learners and veterans?
The college can better serve underserved residents by doing outreach and in engaging with the community, going to community groups, and advertising some of the resources that the college has available for them.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson.
I think this is an area where we have a lot of opportunity to reach out to communities where higher education may not be their natural go-to for ideas, but we have greatly increased, and I support continuing to expand our adult education program. King County has one of the highest rates of adult, don't quote me on the statistic, but they have one of the highest nearby rates of adults without a high school diploma than any other local municipality. And I think most people can agree that that is an incredible stepping stone to success. And so we have continued to outreach to some populations where perhaps English is not their first language, immigrant populations too, and really expanded our adult education program, which is one of the things I've been most excited about over the past few years. And I really just hope that we continue that.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson. How do you plan to strengthen partnerships between the college and local businesses to create job opportunities for graduates?
So we do have specific departments that both help small businesses develop their work, and we also have increased staffing and outreach overall, particularly through the implementation and development of our strategic plan to really engage with local businesses and figure out what the workforce needs of the future are, because we're here to serve the community, and we want to provide an educated populace who can find jobs in their communities so they stay here. And so I think just continued connections, continued outreach, and we've, I think, really worked to support the administration in the staffing requirements to do that. We've also looked for some grants that support that work and have hosted offices and managed to obtain some funds in that way.
Thank you. Candidate Hagas.
Yeah, so the role of the board is to provide governance, set policy, strategic direction, approve, but also being integrated in the community. So we've had being involved in various organizations, working with faculty in CAD and being able to connect them with employers who are looking for opportunities to train their employees to become skilled up in those particular technologies. So making those connections is one way to ensure that we're supporting the community's need by being out there, a part of different organizations and making those connections.
Thank you. Candidate Hagas. What initiatives do you support to ensure diversity, equity, and inclusion in college policies and hiring practices?
That's a very timely question. and a very important one considering the climate that we're in. I think it's important to serve all our students, but also serve those that are underserved, whether low income or otherwise, but identifying those needs and creating programs to support those that are most in need of help is important, and doing so within the realms of the law.
Candidate Medlin Wilson.
So I am a firm believer that having a multitude of voices at the table and listening to many different perspectives improves both the services that we can provide and the quality of the education that we offer. And I believe in being guided by what the data tells us and developing programs to reduce those barriers that I've probably said that word a dozen times tonight. And if the data tells us that there are certain groups that have barriers that are preventing their success, then from my perspective, it's in the interest of the community for us to figure out how to help address those barriers and solve those problems to keep them in school and get them their degree or whatever certificate or program they're working in.
Candidate Medlin Wilson, how will you ensure that college remains accessible and welcoming to students of all backgrounds, including first-generation college students?
Well, I am a first-generation college graduate, and I could take longer than the time I have to explain to you how I got where I am today. But if you'd asked me when I was 16 years old if I'd be sitting up here, I would have laughed at you, because I grew up in a family that didn't value higher education, thought that I should just go get a job, and I was determined to do it in my own way. So I think that being open to everyone and their individual perspectives and listening to them and finding out what supports that the students need to succeed is generally all you need to do. And that I think we should be open to just reminding ourselves that everyone comes from a different background, and we can help them figure out what they need to support their success.
Candidate Jaquez.
Accessibility is very important. Being someone who English was my second language, being a first generation, not only high school graduate, but first generation that went to college and graduated, accessibility is extremely important. But at the board level, ensuring that we set policy and procedures that are in line with making college accessible to all of our community residents in our community is what I will strive to continue to achieve.
Thank you. Candidate Jaquez, what is your stance on issuing bonds or increasing local taxes to fund capital projects or new initiatives?
One of the things we pride ourselves at Waubonsie is utilizing the taxpayers' dollars soundly, responsibly, and ensuring that we continue to do so is my highest priority, and within the guidance of the laws and regulations. I would defer to the experts on those who present to us and in their reports and their plans to ensure that it is in line with our strategic missions and initiatives.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson.
My expectation is always that we balance the value that we provide to the community with the cost to the taxpayers who make up that community. I think generally we have been very fiscally conservative. We have an incredibly high credit rating. We generally are able to operate our college without relying on some of the most fickle funding streams and are really quite healthy overall. Our audits have been very positive the entire time I've been on the board. And those are the primary principles that I adhere to. We generally always evaluate our capital needs with the needs of our students and have been able to meet those without increasing our taxes overall. And I actually looked at my tax bill earlier today because I was curious what this most recent year's what was for we paid to Waubonsie, and it was $450. That $450 is very important to me, but I feel like the value that we provide by graduating, I think approximately 1,700 students, and that doesn't include our adult education and dual enrollment last year, is well worth it.
Thank you. Candidate Medlin Wilson, how will you work with the administration, faculty, and students to create a positive and transparent decision-making process?
So sitting on the board, my work is primarily with the administrative staff, but I am also very engaged and interested in always knowing how the faculty and staff and students are feeling about the culture of the campus overall. And I'm always willing to relay and try to share any information I gather from those populations to try to inform the administration or talk about shifts in direction that we need to take, whether it be through faculty negotiations and collective bargaining, addressing building capital needs on campus. Are our buildings comfortable? Do they have the equipment and the technology that our students need to succeed? So trying to look at that from the big picture, but also relay what I learn through my connections to the community to inform that direction.
Thank you. Candidate Jaquez?
Sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Yes. How will you work with the administration, faculty, and students to create a positive and transparent decision-making process?
So the way I would work with the faculty administration to ensure that we have a positive and transparent process is to ensure that, one of the things that I'm often doing is questioning a lot of what's coming before the board, and there's complete transparency in some of those approvals of what were being discussed in open session. And thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to closing statements. These candidates have already answered 13 questions. I think we've covered a lot of different aspects. So, Candidate Jaquez, would you please start with your closing statement? You have a minute.
Yeah, and I appreciate the time to be here for listening to me. Quite not the best speaker. Waubonsie does have a special place in my heart. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it weren't for the people who influenced me here and the impact that they've made in my life. So really my only purpose of being on the board is to repay that debt of gratitude that I owe to the college, and to ensure that other students have the same, if not better, experience than I did as a student. So thank you.
And Candidate Medlin Wilson, your closing statement, please.
My mission when I first ran was to bring the perspective of a mom with college-age or teenage children to the board, because I didn't see my voice in the board space. And I'm excited to feel like I was able to do that. I think I've been able to share that perspective and impact some of the decisions that we have made, and try to make the campus more welcoming, the culture more positive, and to really keep our focus on the barriers that prevent students from coming here, staying here, and succeeding here. And I think we're making progress in doing that. And while I've been on the board, I've attended several conferences. I've done a lot of work to try to learn what it means to be an effective board member. And I feel like I have a lot more to offer to increase our overall transparency to the community, to our stakeholders, and to continue to work on those fiscal and basic need barriers that our students encounter.
Thank you. Our time is up for this section of the forum. Your participation as a candidate and as a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear. So for more information, please visit the Nonpartisan Voter Guide, illinoisvoterguide.org, the candidates' websites, as well as the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County website. Let's give these candidates a round of applause.
Thank you.
Such a dope.
Can we have the candidates for the Village of Sugar Grove trustees? Everybody does, including me. Okay.
All right. Tony Special.
Special.
Yes.
So easy.
Thank you.
Roscoe.
Test, test.
Everybody has to talk right up.
Test, test. Okay.
All right, this part of the forum is for those seeking to be a Village of Sugar Grove trustee for a 4-year term. There are 3 open positions. Our candidates tonight are Nora London, Michael Roscoff, Anthony Tony Special, James Jamie White. They, again, everybody will have 1, 1, and 1. 1 minute opening, 1 minute closing, and 1 minute to answer questions. Candidates, our timers are right up in front. When you see the stop sign, you may finish your sentence. So, we will start with candidate Nora London. Your opening statement, 1 minute.
Test to make sure this is working. There we go. I'm Nora London.
Okay,
and
everybody needs to speak right up to the microphone.
this better?
Perfect.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate this opportunity that the League of Women Voters and the Sugar Grove Library has provided for us. I have been a resident in Sugar Grove for over a decade, raising my children here and having them go to Waubonsee College to start their school careers. My background is in industrial technology and risk management, just to tell you a little about me. And my experience, I feel, in commercial and industrial property loss prevention, insurance and risk management, emergency management, and industrial safety will be an asset to the board in dealing with development issues. I would like to support my community by serving as a trustee. This is a way that I can give back to the community that I live in. Although I have not served in a public office previously, I have served as an officer in not-for-profit organizations as well as a chairperson for United Way Drives. Thank you.
Next opening statement is candidate Roscoff.
My name is Michael Roscoff. I'm a licensed CPA with more than 30 years of financial, budgeting, tax, and mediation experience. The village board never released any financial projections on how the Crown project will affect the taxing bodies over the 23-year period of the TIF. Prior to the Crown vote, I researched public information at the federal, state, and county level, as well as Crown's Grove website to get a ballpark estimate on how this will affect, the school district, since they will lose the most revenue. I sent a message to the entire village board prior to the TIF vote with my estimate that included links to where I got my information from. No one for the village board that voted yes contacted me or addressed my concerns prior to the vote for this project. The lack of transparency on the financial impact is what drove me to run for this position. If elected, I will give my view to the board and the general public on the long-term financial impacts on major decisions prior to voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Special, your 1-minute opening statement.
Good evening, Tony Special. Welcome and thank you to the League of Women Voters, the Chamber, and the Library for hosting. Just like to introduce myself a little bit. I'm married to my wonderful wife, Rita, for 34 years. We live in Meadow Ridge Villas subdivision. I recently retired as the Public Works Director for the Village of Sugar Grove and also 40 years of municipal government experience. I have dedicated much of my life to Sugar Grove as a longtime resident and as working as the Public Works Director. And I see fantastic opportunities, and I believe I have a perspective and to be effective village trustee. I currently serve as a village plan commissioner and as the Village of Sugar Grove appointee to the Aurora Airport Advisory Commission. I do have a strong knowledge of all the public works departments of the village, streets, water, utility maintenance, and I believe those are all very important information and background to have as we work for our constituents.
Thank you. Candidate White.
Good evening. I'm Jamie White. I have been in Sugar Grove now for, I believe, 25 years. I've had my own law practice here for the last 22, 23 years. I've got 8 children that have grown up here, and some are still growing up here, and those are the older ones. I was elected to the board the last term, so I've been on there 4 years, and I think I bring a different perspective to the board. Prior to being on the board, I was on the Plant Commission. Prior to that, I represented developers who were asking to develop property in Sugar Grove and in surrounding communities. So I've been actually working with the Village of Sugar Grove and or helping developers with the Village of Sugar Grove for years now. I've got a very good understanding of what each side is looking for, and so I'm able to negotiate well for the village in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Roscoff. What do you see as the key responsibilities of a village trustee, and how will you prioritize them?
I think number one thing is listen to citizens, listen to their concerns, try to determine what impact our decisions are. Whatever decision we're talking about, it determine the long-term impact of whatever decision we're doing. Because whatever impacts you do can affect things down the road. For example, I know they sold buildings that could have been used for the village hall years ago, and now they're talking about building a new village hall someday. There's things that can affect you long term. You should plan for it.
Thank you. Candidate Special.
Could you repeat the question, please?
What do you see as the key responsibilities of a village trustee, and how will you prioritize them?
As a retired employee, having fiscal responsibility, making sure we have a balanced budget, living within our means, providing all the necessary services for our constituents, I believe is very important. I also believe in a diversified tax base, and I want to be able to create a more livable community for all our residents, including some of our aging residents, and I'd like to advocate for our senior residents for better resources and other services to improve the life of our Sugar Grove residents. I believe in accountability, transparency, and fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate White.
I think our top priority is acting in what we believe is the best interests of the residents of the Village of Sugar Grove. That's an oath that we take when we're sworn in as a trustee. I think fiscal responsibility is very important. That's why we haven't raised our tax rate for the last 2 years. I think that we've done a wonderful job of using our budget. If we have extra funds, we either put it into other capital improvements or safety enhancements for the village. And we sock it away in savings. We've got a wonderful savings amount. We're about to do renovations to a police station that came in much, much higher than we ever expected. And thankfully, we've got the money all ready to do it without having to sell bonds or without having to raise taxes. And I think that's fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate London.
I think that the role of the trustee is to represent the will of the people who live in our community. We need to be very aware of what their expectations are, make sure they understand the issues that face the community as a whole, so that they have a better understanding, as well as making sure that their thoughts, their needs, their goals are brought to the board so that they are aware of what's needed. And I certainly agree that transparency and fiscal responsibility is a key component so that we can properly prioritize those needs and wants in that community. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Special. How do you plan to foster transparency and open communication with residents?
I believe that's extremely important, and I believe everything that the municipality and village does needs to be online and available for residents to review and look at and go through. I think that's extremely important. There are different open houses and information gatherings that people can have and host. I'll be open to the citizens. I do have a little more availability by being currently retired, so I am able to meet with constituents and have make appointments, talk to residents about things, but I believe that it's important for it to be online, available, accessible, and easy to find, and I think that's important, and that is one of my important things that I want to make sure that we continue and expand on.
Candidate White.
I think that we are transparent, but it's up to people to take advantage of that. All of our agendas are posted online. We're all available by phone. We're all available by email. My email was posted on Facebook, and people were touting, please contact Trustee White. And I didn't get any emails from that. And it's just really surprises me, because we do try to be transparent. People need to come to meetings. People need to read the agenda and see what's on the agenda and what their interest is, and then present it. I think one of the greatest things about our board is that we have a lot of diversity and we have great conversation. A lot of the trustees, I think in the past, were kind of shut down, and I think now there's wonderful discussions that we have that bring all this to light.
Thank you. Candidate London.
One of the things that I think I would need to do is set up regular office hours so that people would know when they could reach out to me directly. It's difficult for a lot of people to get a hold of all the information that's out there. It's a big information dump, and people become overwhelmed. They have everyday issues that they have to deal with. The kids go this way. Their jobs take them other ways. So making sure we get that information out to them regularly is going to be a big challenge. We have to really make sure it's in a form that they can readily access. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Roscoff.
I agree with Tony Special about that things need to be online more. That we need to have all the information online prior to meetings, so people are informed before a meeting what's going to happen. I also think that citizens' questions or concerns should be addressed. I mean, for example, you go to a lot of these meetings and there's a lot of public statements made. I know you can't address public statements, but after the meeting, you should take that back home and think about that stuff and try to incorporate that into future discussions with the board and future consideration for the board itself. I think everybody's concerns to be addressed, whether you email me or leave me a voicemail, I can call you back. I'm willing to talk to anybody, anytime. But if you agree with me or disagree with me, thank you.
Candidate White. Economic incentives, such as tax breaks or grants, are often used to attract business. What is your stance on offering incentives, and how will you ensure they provide long-term benefits to the community rather than just short-term gains?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? The first part I could not hear.
Economic incentives, such as tax breaks or grants, are often used to attract business. What is your stance on offering incentives, and how will you ensure they provide long-term benefits to the community rather than just short-term gains?
So if necessary, I believe that economic incentives should be given to developers and businesses. As a great example is the Grove. I voted in favor of the Grove because I believed that it was necessary to have to give the developer economic incentives in order to develop the property that otherwise was not going to be developed. It does not have any infrastructure to a lot of the area that would have been the best tax base for the schools and for the village. And so to me, it was necessary in order to be able to develop that area. The village has historically tried to give incentives. Unfortunately, they didn't do it the right way. We have two TIFs that have both failed. TIF 1 has now been eliminated because it wasn't getting anything. In TIF 2, I ran originally so that TIF 2 could try to be developed, and nobody has tried to. So.
Thank you. Candidate London.
When we're looking at incentives for development, we have to look at the whole picture. It's not just what's going to do today to bring in development. It has to be a long-term viewpoint. But often what we are looking at is giving them, tax incentives to come to our community. And I look at it as we're a good community. We have a lot of good resources. They should be part of our community, and they need to support us with their taxes. So in the overall big scheme of things, we need to evaluate what those incentives are going to do to us, both short-term and long-term, for the goals of the entire community and what our appetite for growth would be. Thank you.
Candidate Roscoff.
I think it would depend on what kind of business we're talking about. I used to live in Montgomery before I moved to Sugar Grove, and when the Walmart was built out there, they did not give them any kind of TIF. They gave them a sales tax rebate. I think they gave them 50% of the sales tax rebate for so many years to pay for the infrastructure. That did not affect the schools. It didn't affect really anything because it was sales tax they never received in the first place. There was added police and fire cost to it, but it wasn't a huge detriment to the towns. Compare it to the TIF, that could be detrimental to the school tax base. I would depend on what it is. I mean, a TIF for me would be great for, you brought in a big employer in here to help bring jobs. That's what a good example for a TIF would be, in my opinion. But I think sales tax rebates and other incentives like that are not going to severely affect the long-term budgets is what I would look for.
Candidate Special.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, I can. Economic incentives, such as tax breaks or grants, are often used to attract business. What is your stance on offering incentives, and how will you ensure they provide long-term benefits to the community rather than just short-term gains?
As a retired public works director for the village, I've seen over the past 20 plus years different kinds of incentive used and different type of projects that they were used for. Some have been very successful. Jewel got a $1 million sales tax rebate over 10 years to get them started. Culver's got infrastructure money to help build their additional entrance they needed. And there's many different projects, and TIFs is one of them, grants is another one, sales tax rebates. I am also aware of all the other projects that came before the village that didn't get worked out or move forward in a way, and I think my knowledge and background on evaluating projects and determining what the infrastructure costs and the needs of a project to make it to the benefit of all the residents of Village of Sugar Grove is important, and I think my experience helps me work forward with that.
Thank you. Candidate London, with the ongoing development of the TIF district, how will you ensure it is used effectively to bring in businesses that benefit both the local economy and residents?
As far as the current TIF district, we have, as noted, a couple failed ones. The ongoing evaluation of what's going on, what our financial needs are versus the contributions from the tax base will need to be looked at very, very closely. I'm personally not a big supporter of long-term commitments to things like a TIF. I think that most of our emphasis should be on shorter-term incentives and goals.
Thank you. Candidate Roscoff.
I would think you look at what kind of business you want in the TIF district. As I understand, the nursing home is part of the TIF district, and the fire department is very affected by it. I don't think it's appropriate in a TIF district. I mean, otherwise, the fire department is the one who's financially burdened by that. I mean, I think you should look at what kind of business you want and make sure it's not burdening any certain taxing bodies, and just see what residents want. What do we want there? Do we want to bring jobs? Are we trying to bring residential in there? Or not residential? Are we trying to bring retail in there? It just depends on what we're looking for. So it depends on the location, I think.
Thank you. Candidate Special.
Could you repeat the question, please?
With the ongoing development of the TIF district, how will you ensure it is used effectively to bring in businesses that benefit both the local economy and residents?
With the current TIF districts, anybody that develops in the TIF district has to have a development agreement. That agreement spells out exactly what those TIF dollars can be used for. The basics of those TIF dollars are for infrastructure, which covers water mains and roads, and those type of utilities, sanitary sewer, and the like. Obviously, being very familiar with that in the village, worked on a lot of projects, the master water plan, et cetera, et cetera. I'm very aware of that, and knowing that the village has competent staff and agreements that are fortified with exactly how those funds can be spent. I intend to effectively monitor those based on my knowledge and information of what our village needs to expand the services to service those areas.
Thank you. Candidate White.
I think if you compare TIF 2 to TIF 3, you see a great difference in how they should be done. TIF 2 and TIF 1, for that matter, had no plan to it. They just took a piece of property, said, let's try to develop this and incentivize people with it and hope somebody would come. Well, they didn't, except a senior housing development. TIF 3 has a plan to it. TIF 3 is master planned. It's limited in scope, it's limited in dollars, and it's going to, if everything goes okay, it's going to be done before the 23 years. If everything goes great, which we anticipate that it will, then it's going to be done even sooner. we're able to get uses in there that are less impactful. We could have had warehouses coming in, but thankfully we have data centers that don't have all the trucks. So I think the difference is you just look at the two TIFs and you can see the right way and the wrong way.
Thank you. Candidate Roscoff, what role do infrastructure improvements such as roads, utilities, and broadband play in business attraction, and how do you plan to address their needs?
You have to make sure, roads are wide enough and you have the infrastructure, utilities, and everything on these roads to attract businesses. I think you have to go from inwards. You have to start at the major streets. I mean, you have Galena, you have Route 47, you have, certain roads that have infrastructure on there. I think you should focus on the areas that have the infrastructure instead of trying to bring utilities. For example, the Grove. I don't know much about it, but how the utilities. But I believe you have to cross the interstate, and that's very costly. Why don't we focus on areas that we have the infrastructure already and try to go out there? I mean, it's so expensive to bring utilities and bring everything else. I mean, work on what we have first and work our way out. I mean, that's less expensive, I think.
Thank you. Candidate Special.
Infrastructure obviously is the backbone of any type of development. I worked on all the plans for the village with my experience from transportation to water mains, et cetera, et cetera. It is difficult assessing different areas and whether you should try to expand or develop those areas. Is it worth it? What's the benefit and the risk? Obviously, you have to rely on the experts. You do have reports to read. You have staff that you have to work with and understand. We have village engineers and finance directors, and it's a team. Everybody works together, and I think with my experience and knowledge of the village, the system, everything, I can contribute to moving our village forward for everybody.
Candidate White.
So from an infrastructure standpoint, the parts of town that could be developed have been available for years to be developed but haven't been. We already have infrastructure there. With regard to the backbone, let's call it, of the internet, and we've got Comcast now looking to come to Sugar Grove. We've got MediaCom, and we've got different options. And so the village has been very good in enticing some of these people to come to the village because they think and they believe, as we do, that the village is going to grow. And so it makes it enticing for them as a business. If you don't have growth, why would a business come here? We looked at locating the town center off of Galena, and the developer couldn't work with the landowner.
Thank you. Candidate London.
As pointed out, the infrastructure for all the various utilities is very key to any kind of development and sustainable growth. And that has to be looked at not only from a short-term perspective of bringing in some new businesses, but on that long-term growth so that we do not overtax those various utilities, power, whatever, that is needed not only for business development, but for your everyday people, because we've seen in many communities where they put in infrastructure that they thought was going to be fine, but it only lasted for like 5 years, and now they had to go back to the drawing board. And I found in my career there have been a number of places where we've really lost the utilities, and not only the businesses, but the residents would suffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Special. How will you address concerns about public safety and emergency services as the village grows?
Well, Emergency services involves all departments of the village, including external resources as well as the fire district, Kane County, et cetera. It's very important. One of the current projects that are ongoing right now is the upgrades to the police station that was sorely needed. It's all part of teamwork, reviews, training, et cetera. The village itself, Public Works Department, is involved in a mutual aid system, as well as the other departments of the village, so we can rely on resources from other communities. In the past, Public Works Department has assisted in tornado areas and vice versa, where other communities have come to our village. So public safety, making sure our infrastructures are all at operating efficiency, our backup systems are in place, and our mutual aid connections and with other municipalities are in place to make sure we are able to provide the services in emergencies.
Thank you. Candidate White.
I think we are taking steps to do that. We are making improvements to the police station. We are down, I think, 2 or 3 full-time officers. We rely very heavily on part-time officers. And I think if you walked through our police station, you'd understand what a difficult time it is to recruit police officers to the village of Sugar Grove. Everybody's looking to hire police officers, and we've got a police station that's so outdated, but we're taking the steps that we need to take in order to hopefully turn that around and make Sugar Grove a place where officers want to work. And we do appreciate the ones that do work here, gentlemen. So the fire department, we're working with them. We've just used TIF dollars in order to help the fire department buy a new ambulance. It's a capital improvement that we're allowed to do under the TIF Act. And so we're building our backbone for what Sugar Grove is going to be.
Thank you. Candidate London.
Safety and emergency services are important to the entire community. That's not only the businesses that locate here, but to the every single individual. They want to know that if they call 911, that the response is going to be there. So we need to support them and make sure that not only is it a robust program, but that it is a financially responsible program so that we get all of the features that we need. It's also an area that is going to continue to be strained as we would grow, so we need to make sure we have a long-term plan in place so that all the businesses we want to locate and the community are well served.
Candidate Roscoff.
I think the police department is the backbone of this. I mean, I think that most of the issues have to do with police or fire issues. I would talk to the police chief and fire department and try to figure out what their needs are, what other towns are doing, what we're lacking. I've never been on a village board before. I don't have all the answers. I talk to other trustees, see what's been done before, see what recommendations are. So I don't have all the answers. I would talk to people and try to find what other communities are doing and what we're missing. And if there is anything missing, I'd like to identify that and try to rectify the situation.
Thank you. Candidate White. What is your approach to managing resident expectations while ensuring their concerns are heard and addressed?
Well, I think it's to be available to them. As I said, my office is in Sugar Grove. I've been here 20-something years. I've had people walk into my office, but not very often. Since I've been a trustee, I don't know what if people think I'm just too busy or something, because I hear other trustees get emails, and I hardly get any emails. The last time I got a phone call from a resident, it was to talk about corn boil. So, I'm open to the residents. I don't know what else I could be than that, is to listen to what they have to say. Yes, I might disagree with them, but I'll be open with them, I'll listen to them, and I'll do what I believe is in the best interest of the village.
Thank you. Candidate London,
Could you please repeat the question?
what is your approach to managing resident expectations while ensuring their concerns are heard and addressed?
Overall, I would be looking at making sure I'm available, I'm responsive to any information that I get from residents, and addressing their concerns. Now, does that mean that every single thing that somebody brings up as a concern can we reasonably address? I've talked to people recently, and somebody said, hey, I would really like to have a Target move in. Well, that may not be really a realistic thing short term, but we need to make sure that they understand that there's some issues we can deal with right now, some that are a longer term issue, and that they are listened to and understood, and that they have a means for getting back to us and asking more questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Roscoff.
I think number one is just listen to people. See who's most affected by his situations. For example, I live in Windsor Point, and they're putting a subdivision behind me. And I don't know if the board did it or the developer did it, but they're putting a berm behind to separation of our communities. I was worried about that. I was worried about having some of it in my backyard, because they're small units. And so some of they're putting a berm out there. It does relieve my stress about, how tight our community is going to be. So you listen to people, understand what people's needs are. We all can't agree on everything. I understand that, but at least you should have dialogue with the community and answer the question. Explain why you're voting for something this way. Why is the village board doing this for? And explain why. They might not agree with you, but you should have a good answer why you're doing something. And just take everybody's advice. And sometimes it might change your mind. I mean, you shouldn't walk in with your mind made up. You should listen to people and be open for change.
Candidate Special.
I believe I effectively did this for nearly 20 years as public work director, met the needs of the citizens in the departments that I oversaw. Obviously, by being retired, I will have more time during the day to meet with residents, discuss issues, go over them with them. My wife definitely wants me to find a little bit more to do during the day, so being retired just a short time, this would give me a little bit more things to do outside of the house. But I believe as I've done this, I did it effectively. I believe I met the expectations of the customers. We've had water, sewer, streets plowed, and obviously to expand that into covering it as a village trustee, I believe that would be secondhand nature to me, and I believe that I could fully support all the residents of our community.
Thank you. Candidate London. What do you believe is the most critical issue facing Sugar Grove today, and why are you the best candidate to address it?
Based on the public's interest in development, I think that's probably one of the most critical issues that we can look at, because this touches on everything that we've already commented on before. It's infrastructure, it's emergency response, it's very wide, and it also hits our tax base and other significant issues. Why I'd be effective in this is that as our development is bringing in a lot of industrial properties, I have the experience in industrial properties. I've helped with the protection of those properties, with the design and construction of those properties, so I'm very intimately familiar with how those pieces come together. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Roscoff.
I think you have to look at, I think, infrastructure and what we're going to bring to this community. Are we trying to bring more subdivisions? Are we trying to bring more commercial? What's the identity of Sugar Grove? Do we want to be a Naperville? Do we want to be a rural town? I mean, we have to talk to residents what we want. How are we going to develop this town? Are we going to try to bring big manufacturers in? Are we going to try to bring more jobs in? I'd like to look at the pieces and see what everybody else wants. I mean, the board shouldn't just make a decision on what we want. I think we should talk to the community and find out what they want for a town. What's the identity of this town?
Thank you. Candidate special.
I believe in a diversified tax base. Obviously, it takes a lot of different entities and businesses and residents and rooftops to make a diversified tax base and make your community enticing to stores and commercial and restaurants and businesses. So I believe that's very important. We need to be improving on how we do that and develop our community. It's very important that we take in the needs of our residents. And I've been here with my experience. I just didn't start with the Village of Sugar Grove. And I want to make sure we have a livable community. We want to have a place where we can gather and meet and have amenities for our residents, but diversified tax base is the best that for everybody involved. Every taxing body needs a diversified tax base to support themselves.
Thank you. Candidate White.
Yeah, I think that development is the big issue. We have boundary agreements with everyone around us except Elburn. And so we're never going to be a Naperville. We're never going to be an Aurora. We're never going to be a Yorkville or an Oswego. We just can't grow that much. So I think we're going to maintain our small town feel, but we do have to maximize our ability to have a diverse tax base. And I think that's something that we've been trying to do as a board. That is, to me, the biggest issue that the village has to face. And I think what makes me the right candidate for this board is my experience representing developers. I know what they are looking for. When Crown first came in, I spent probably about 40 hours going through their development agreement and changing it because I knew what they were trying to accomplish. And so we had to put limits on it. So that's, I think, what I bring to this board.
Thank you. Let's move to our closing statements. Let's start with candidate Roscoff. You have 1 minute.
Sue Stillwell, Dora London, and I have all one thing in common. We want to represent Sugar Grove and do what is the best interest of the community we live in, while considering how our decisions affect the residents. I live in Windsor Point. My backyard backs up to the future Lennar subdivision. At last week's planning meeting, the builder did an excellent job of showing how they are incorporating sufficient green space, trees, and the right type of properties that will complement our village. The Planning Commission did a great job and make sure that project turned out decent. I really like it. Our taxes are high, and much higher that is due to the lack of industry in our taxing bodies. A diversified tax base is important. We need some kind of industry in here. We can't just have residential. But we need to look at what we want, what residents want. I support bringing businesses and other residential products that will have a positive impact on our community. If you want your voices heard when it comes to our growing community, please consider voting for Sue for village president, Nora and myself for village trustees. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate special, 1 minute closing.
I'm passionate about smart development for our community, including creating spaces for our residents and patrons to live, work, and dine and enjoy. I did work on the Town Center Committee. I believe that's important. That is something that we need. The Villages in Florida is an excellent example how town squares come together. I'm running because I believe in this community. I've worked for the village. I live here. I've been here. I know we need a diversified tax base. I want to make myself available to make improvements in everything that we do. I believe that I've a successful track record as a employee public works director. It's great to see things that I've worked on for over 10 plus years. Blackberry Creek Bridge, $1 million grant, safe routes to school, several $100,000 to put sidewalks in a part of town that never had sidewalks before. The improvements at Bliss Citizen 47.
Thank
I
you.
think that I just want to be able to represent our residents and move our village forward.
Thank you.
That was quite a run-on sentence.
I usually say you can finish your sentence and don't make it a compound sentence, but I didn't say it this time.
But he didn't breathe during it. He just kept going. So.
I know. He was just
you.
inhaling. Okay.
That's his passion.
Candidate White, your 1 minute closing statement.
Thank you. When I first ran for village board, it was because I felt that the village had stagnated. I think, for the 10 years before I got here, we had about 300 building permits in 10 years. We weren't going anywhere fast. And then Jen Conan became village president. We had a few new people on the board, and we started moving the village forward. We've got new businesses in town. We've got more businesses coming. I haven't heard anybody up here say, this isn't going right. We're not doing the right thing. It's that, they think that we're not listening. However, we've been listening the whole time. This is not something that is just because, you have to have a passion to do this. It takes a lot of time. And so I think I'm the best candidate for this village because of my experience and the time I've devoted to it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate London.
I would like to see Sugar Grove as a vibrant and prosperous community for the long term. This means we need to successfully manage growth and taxes to meet those long-term goals. The community needs representation that is responsive to the residents, their needs, and their concerns. Your voices should not only be heard, but acted on. I hope to represent you fairly with open communication. The experience and skills that I bring to the table in the growth and management of industrial and commercial properties would be a resource to the board as we navigate the issues associated with growth and development in our community. I consider this a grassroots campaign, just concerned residents, including Sue and Mike, hoping to serve the community of Sugar Grove and make a positive impact in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Our time is up for this part of the forum. Your participation as a candidate and a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear. So let's give these candidates a round of applause.
I didn't get to shake your hand when we got here, being nervous and look the other way.
Yeah, I get it.
Thank you. No problem. Do you want to say anywhere in particular? Let's see. Okay. That's Dalton. Do you want to switch? Is that, you're not calling? I brought one up. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Jennifer Conan. Yes. And Susan Stowe. Okay. You'll be candidate Conan and candidate Stowe. Okay. There. Perfect. Just alternate. Okay.
This forum is for those seeking to be a village of, this forum is for those seeking to be the Village of Sugar Grove president for a 4-year term. Our candidates are Jennifer Conan and Susan Stillwell. Again, 1 minute opening, 1 minute to to answer questions, and 1 minute closing. Candidates, see our timers here. So let's start. Candidate Conan, would you please give your 1 minute opening statement?
Thank you. Good evening.
You got to get closer.
Okay. I'm Jennifer Conan, and I'm honored to serve as your village president. My husband and I have been proud residents of Sugar Grove for 22 years. We chose this wonderful community to start our family and put down roots because because of its safety, friendliness, and strong sense of community. Together, we're raising our 3 amazing children, Lily, Sydney, and Henry. For the last 6 years, I've represented the residents of Sugar Grove in numerous ways, first as a trustee, then as a village president, and I'm proud of our accomplishments. Diversifying the tax base with 6 new businesses this year and more on the horizon, 0% property tax levy the last 2 years, lowering water rates by 5% over my term as president, committed to safety, remodeling our police department without borrowing money or raising taxes, increasing the road fund by 21% for our capital infrastructure needs, working with state legislators to secure grants. With your support, I hope to continue to work on your behalf, saving you money and creating wonderful amenities right here in Sugar Grove.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters and everyone who came out tonight. I stepped up to run because I think the TIF contract with Crown was not well negotiated. In fact, at the Canelan School Board meeting tonight, there was a unanimous vote to litigate over the TIF. This could have been avoided if the current administration listened to residents. The spending of other people's tax dollars has been frivolous in some areas, such as marketing and the proposed $10 million village hall. I think the sale of village real estate assets was a mistake, and I would be looking to more responsibly manage the village's assets. I come from a family with 2 Chicago police officers, an EMT, and I am a licensed emergency room nurse. I also have approximately 20 years of experience working in title insurance, with experience with land records, municipal requirements, and department management. I have degrees in business administration and nursing. I'm a minimalist when it comes to debt and spending. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell, why do you want to be Sugar Grove president?
I never thought I would be running for village president. I think many of us in this community were frustrated over the last few years. Hundreds of us spoke out in opposition of the TIF. Our emails went unanswered. We didn't want this to continue with for another 4 years. We thought a lot of the spending was unnecessary. For example, just last week, I think President Conan, I don't know if it was last week, but recently there was a $1,500 video for the police department that was used as campaign material. And we just wanted some change. So did I want to become village president? It was not on my bingo card, but I did step up.
Thank you. Candidate Conan.
Well, I've loved being the village president. I love this town. I'm committed to it. It takes hard work, dedication, and time. So as much as some folks don't think we're listening. When you come and you have board meetings and we have items on the agenda, if you don't feel like we've listened because we haven't sided with your thought, it doesn't mean we're not listening. Every opportunity that someone has to shape information and bring it forward to us makes a project better. It might not be exactly how you would craft it, but it does make it better. So like I said, I've worked really hard for the village. I do love where I live. And I want to make it better. I want to make those connections happen between neighborhoods. We've been working on that. That town center is what I ran on in '21. I want to deliver on that. There's much more to be done, and I think that we were just getting started.
Thank you. Candidate Conan, how have you, or how will you, actively listen to residents' concerns and ensure their voices are heard in village decisions?
Absolutely. So I am open. I do keep office hours at the Village Hall. Several residents that have reached out to me have met with me and also said, how do you give me so much of your time? So I think it's important to listen to residents. I think it's also important for those residents to understand the things that they might not know that are going on. And it's really about sharing information. So as much as someone has a concern, understand it from the village component and the village side of things. And let's see if there's a meeting of the minds in the middle. There might not be, but I certainly want everybody to feel like their voices are heard and we are available. I certainly am available. I've done coffees with Conan. I have a Q&A, State of the Village tomorrow. I'm trying to make myself as available to everyone as possible.
I'm sorry, did I start with?
You started.
Okay, candidate Stillwell.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes. How have you, or how will you, actively listen to residents' concerns and ensure their voices are heard in village decisions?
So many of us got together and there was an advisory referendum petition signed. That information there will be a vote in April. It will either show whether the community is for or against the TIF. I plan to look at that information and it'll clearly show, like, hundreds of us spoke out and we were told, oh, it's mostly Blackberry residents, or, all of you may not agree with us, but we know what's best. So looking at that advisory referendum, it will show what the community wants, and I plan to do everything I can to act in the interest of the community. I would also always answer emails and be very responsive, as I have already been.
Candidate Stillwell. Being specific, what do you see as the biggest challenges facing our community today?
Our community is extremely divided. Many of us have been very, very stressed out by the conflict. I feel like our community has been split in half. We've had protests, things that we never had before the last 4 years, and I would like to bring the community back together. We need peace in our community again. We need to enjoy where we live. It needs to be a place that we all go to feel happy and at home, and I'm looking to try to restore that.
Thank you. Candidate Conan.
Thank you. Many of our challenges really are related to finances and infrastructure. There are several projects within the village that we look at funds for today. We have some reserve dollars paying for them, but really some big water main projects. So I think as we move forward there, I would agree that there is definitely a divide with to develop or not to develop. I ran against a development project 6 years ago that was 8 million square feet of warehouse. I believe that that project has been made wholeheartedly better for this community and its residents. We do have infrastructure problems, though, and that project is not viable, which produces a very large tax base for this community. Almost the entire base up there is what our village produces today, and that revenue doesn't come by accident. It comes because the TIF is providing the backbone infrastructure to allow that property to be activated. So we have other projects within the village, and when you develop in one area, you generate funds where we can help in another. So some of the funds that we generate, whether it be utility tax or sales tax, will help fund infrastructure elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Conan. Attracting businesses to Sugar Grove is not just about interest. It requires the right conditions such as location, traffic flow, infrastructure, and market demand. How will you work to make Sugar Grove more attractive to businesses while maintaining the village's character?
Thank you. I think we did that. That was one of the problems we had before I ran for this seat 4 years ago. We were waiting for development to show up at our door. Nothing was coming. We created an economic development department in-house. We hired staff, someone with an extreme Rolodex who has worked with most people in the Chicago market, whether it be their brokers or landowners, and he's helping bring those businesses here. You're seeing it. Not every business needs an incentive, but when you have infrastructure in the ground in close proximity, you see a Starbucks through a relationship come forward, and there's no sales tax or any type of incentive. So utilizing what we've done, I would stick with our plan. We are moving this village forward, and I would like to continue in that effort.
Candidate Stillwell.
We had a local resident and developer that contacted Sugar Grove in writing in 2022. He said having more industrial and heavy commercial property within the boundaries of Sugar Grove, whether it's on the north or south side of 88, creates a stigma that will discourage new people from wanting to move to Sugar Grove. He had a history of planning a very desirable community with medical offices, hotels, and children's daycare center. He said you'll attract these businesses, hotels, senior daycare, et cetera, by first attracting additional families to the area. I would do that in a couple of ways. The first is by, I lost my train of thought, I apologize. I do plan to, I'm sorry. I'm out of time.
No, you're not.
Okay. So the first is to increase the number of native plants in the area, activities for families. We do have one housing development coming in, and I would encourage these conversations with developers that were previously not listened to.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell. Beyond attracting new businesses, how will you support and retain the businesses that are already a part of the Sugar Grove community?
I think we have some fantastic businesses in Sugar Grove, from Rosewood Farm with the farmers market and the food trucks. We've got several new restaurants in the area next to Jewel, and just publicizing those as much as possible, holding events, and just speaking to the owners, finding out what do they need in order to stay here. We have a lot of businesses where there are two of them. So just discussing with them to see how Sugar Grove can help. We also have a need for some businesses that we don't have here, like bakeries and things like that. Some of the food trucks are bakeries. So possibly talking to those owners, what would it take to get them from a food truck into a brick and mortar opening, retail space opening?
Thank you. Candidate Conan.
Yes. So as part of economic development, we do business retention visits. We try to do them at least one every 2 months. And what we've heard as we've gone through the community and talked to business owners is the overwhelming thing that we ask is, how can we as a village help and support you in your business? And they need customers. And customers, we need more housing to provide those customers. So when we look at other business opportunities, not only supporting the ones that are local and already here, needing those customers, but attracting new business to the community, they also need those customers. Otherwise, you're just divvying up the same pie. So we do need to get back on track and bring more residents into Sugar Grove, but attracting the businesses that we all want, because we all have heard from, everybody's got something in their mind as what they want to see here. Those businesses have needs too. And if we don't meet the needs of that business, they're not going to come. So growth is necessary.
Candidate Conan, will you address potential concerns related to energy consumption, water usage, and the environmental impact from data centers?
Great question. Absolutely. So before we even considered whether or not we were going to have data centers as a permitted use, we actually created a data center zoning district a few years ago. And through that effort, we did our due diligence with Aurora in particular, because they have CyrusOne. We pulled their water reports. We know that CyrusOne, one building of what they produce in water consumption in a given year is less than 5% of our annual water supply. So when you have one business like that who has been operational for a while and how much water they're already consuming, and then you look at the things that are being done with the future of data centers, and they're necessary, they have to use less water. So there's cooling mechanisms and different things so that they are environmentally friendly. But we have done our due diligence, and we have ample water supply without hurting our residents today or drying up our wells.
Candidate Stillwell.
Data centers are not environmentally friendly. Not all of, but the majority of Blackberry has expressed concerns about their water supply. There are reports that contradict what President Conan has said. The school board, again, has unanimously voted to litigate the TIF and pursue an injunction. Should that happen, I don't believe that the data center will be moving forward. Without the TIF, I don't believe this developer plans to continue.
Candidate Stillwell, with the ongoing development of the TIF district, how will you ensure it is used effectively to bring in businesses that benefit both the local economy and residents?
As Trustee White had said, TIF 1 and TIF 2 were a failure. I'm not sure why. They are expecting such a great outcome from TIF 3. A similar situation happened in Orland Park. They had 2 recent TIFs that put Orland Park into debt. They are now pursuing another TIF to try to get out of debt. I don't think this is a financially responsible way to go. Like I said, I would be looking for the results of that advisory referendum in April and how to best proceed.
Thank you. Candidate Conan.
Yes, I would first say TIF 1 and TIF 2 are not failed. They were underutilized. They were created at a time without a project, and that's why it didn't go anywhere. There were no bonds issued. There's no debt there. So at any given time, they could be terminated like we did with TIF 1. TIF 3, you have to understand the incentive that you need to give. And in this case, it's backbone infrastructure. We don't have to incentivize with sales tax. You have to put the infrastructure in the ground. If you don't put the infrastructure in the ground, obviously the project can't happen. So if we want to do it as a municipality, we bond those $109 million. The residents aren't going to pass that by referendum, so that property never develops. In this case, the developer is putting up the money. They're the ones at risk. If the project does not develop and produce increment, they don't get paid back. The village is not on the hook for those for any bonds. There is no financial obligation on behalf of the village. This is the developer's risk, and it's a significant one, which means they need it to go and they need it to build out.
Thank you. Candidate Conan. How do you plan to sustain Sugar Grove financially?
That's a great question. So through economic development, just like every taxing district, your payroll is going up every year, infrastructure goes up every year. As a municipality, we are responsible not only for police services, which is the highest dollar amount out of our budget, out of our general fund, but all roadway improvements. For a resident, when you're sitting at home and you want your sidewalks improved, well, if there's not funds to do that, we're not going to be able to do that. You want your roadways improved, we need funds to do that. So the best thing we can do as a village is produce economic development and viability, and we look at it different ways. Property tax for us isn't as significant as it is for the school district. We are more beneficial for the village is through sales tax incentive, utility tax, income tax. So getting LGDF, which is local government distributive fund from the state, that is paid per person on a per person basis for every resident we have. We can grow our economic base by growing residents, so that's another way. We need more revenue to pay our bills is what it comes down to.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell.
President Conan says that we need more revenue to pay our bills. She also says we have $20 million in reserves, but she wants to spend $10 million on a village hall. If we stop the wild spending and leave the $20 million in the bank, we don't need to pursue constant sources of new revenue. We are doing well right now if we have $20 million in reserves. If we stop spending, we are at a sustainable place and we don't have to be desperate for new development. We can welcome new development that we like, the projects, the businesses, both residential and industrial. If we really like those businesses, we can keep them, but we don't have to be desperate if we slow the spending.
Candidate Stillwell, how would you handle misinformation or public concerns that arise about village projects?
If citizens were speaking about misinformation.
How would you handle misinformation of?
The village has various channels to explain the projects that they're working on. So the website would be one. There's official Facebook pages. There's written literature. I could also directly address them. But if there was misinformation, I would find out where that's coming from. How do we best correct it?
Candidate Conan.
Yes. Misinformation has been a challenge for this municipality over the last 3 years. We went as far as to hire a consultant to help share information with all of our residents, whether it be on our website, our Facebook page. But we have an aging population, and not everybody's on Facebook, and not everybody's on Twitter. So how do we get information to them? Sending out a mailing is costly. We try to put it in our water bills. We have notes within our water bills. Some people are doing digital water bills. But we spend a lot of time and effort trying to communicate with our residents. $20 million in reserves, yes, we do have them. And by the way, they are allocated for certain things. We plan 10 years in advance. So part of our reserve money is also all of our, if we had a tornado come through and wipe out our entire village today, we could replenish every vehicle within our fleet. So it's not that there's this stockpile. We have reserves that we can use and borrow against, but they are earmarked for different projects. Over the course of a 10-year planning, we have those funds available for different projects.
Candidate Conan, how do you plan to increase transparency in village operations, and how does your approach differ from your opponents?
That's a great question, and I think it's always difficult to get as much information out to folks. We're open. I think it's evident in the fact that we've been FOIA'd, I don't know, over 1,000 times in the past 3 years, so our information is out there. We don't hide information. I do coffees with Conan. Ask me whatever you want to ask me, and I will give you an answer. Like I said, I'm doing that again tomorrow. But we can always do better. Like I said, regarding Facebook and our website and Twitter, those are certain avenues. But again, we have an aging demographic, and how do we meet with them? So I've gone to both our senior buildings and sat down and done Q&As with them. So getting out in the community. But transparency is important. Everybody should have access to information. Let us know what you're looking for, and we'll do our best to provide it for you.
Candidate Stillwell.
President Conan said that her administration is transparent with citizens. What they have done is hired an expensive marketing firm to make Facebook posts and Instagram posts and close the comments to all of it. They will not let citizens comment on these expensive Instagram posts, which anyone could make for free. They can no longer comment on Facebook. They've shut down all public sources of feedback from residents, and then you have to either go to a coffee with Conan, which for a long time those weren't even going on. You can go to the village board meeting if you're able to at that time, or you can email, but you won't get a response to your emails. Thank you.
Candidate Stillwell, how do you plan to build and maintain strong relationships with state and county officials to advocate for Sugar Grove's needs?
I already had to contact Kane County once because someone that was working with Jen had an issue with my voting record, so I did clear that up. That does show that I already have open communication with Kane County, and I'd like to continue to have it open. State officials I would like to contact for grants and things like that. I am a very good writer. I would very much enjoy helping with grant applications. Thank you.
Candidate Conan.
Thank you. I do have good working relations with our state representatives. I spend time in Springfield. I drive down there. I'm going down there next week advocating for the residents of Sugar Grove. Whether it be through the local government distributed fund, which I've mentioned earlier, is your LGDF. Those are dollars that we get on per capita basis. I'm the speaker in the Senate, in the majority leader's, the senator's office next week, Senator Harmon, as I have to pitch to him why they can't cut those dollars to our village. That's what I do. I do it with our COG, local mayors and administrators through the Fox Valley area. We represent 750,000 voices. You need to be able to go down there, have good working relations. Senator DeWitt is helping us with improvements at Park and 47. Those are the things. We have lots of things. We get unfunded mandates that come our way. We need our legislators to help make better policy downstate so we have less impact here in local government. So we're always advocating for local government down in Springfield.
Thank you. Candidate Conan. How will you engage with business owners to foster economic growth while balancing the needs of the residents?
The existing business owners, I guess, is the question. Okay.
I would guess.
Okay. So the existing business owners, they're here, and like I said, we've been through those site visits, and we do those every few months. It doesn't seem like we have an issue with the existing businesses, but it seems like from what I've heard over the years is we don't have enough of the businesses that the residents would like, or the types of businesses, whether it be sit-down restaurants. We did get, Burnt Barrel open, so we did bring a sit-down restaurant. But we have great working relationships. I think it's being open and transparent with those business owners and always being in front of them and asking them what they need and what we can do better to help. The residents, when it comes to businesses they want, we do our best to bring them. But again, it's a balance between what the residents want and what those business owners want in order to locate here. So it is a tricky balance, and we work on it daily. So I'll continue to do what I've been doing.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell.
I'd also like to meet with businesses and find out what they need. I think the biggest risk to businesses over the next couple of years is a possible recession. So some of those businesses may end up struggling. As a village, we'd like to continue to keep in close touch with each business. If someone is struggling, potentially going out of business, we really want to see what we can do to try to help and retain that business. We need to keep all the businesses that we have while also trying to attract new ones.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell, how would you balance other responsibilities, your other responsibilities, alongside your role as village president?
I've worked 2 simultaneous careers over the last decade, so I've shown that I'm very good at handling more than one, job. My side job for the last 10 years or so has been in the emergency room, so extremely stressful. Took a lot of time, and I was able to do it without an issue. I'm currently only working 1 career, so I have plenty of time for a second, and then I plan to devote about 25 hours a week. I think that's pretty standard for other people that have a full-time job and an elected position.
Candidate Conan.
Yes, I think I went into it thinking it wasn't going to take the amount of time that it took. Prior leadership in the village of Sugar Grove did it part-time, attended board meetings, went to meetings at night, and did those kinds of things. If you're seeing the progress that 4 years can do when you have somebody sitting in this seat who's working 40 hours a week. I have a very supportive family, and I have another job. I don't know Monday from Sunday to Saturday. I go 7 days a week all the time. It takes a lot of time to do this job and to do it well, and it's thankless at times. I love it, but I think a lot of people at times will beat you up about it. But you have to be dedicated to moving the community that you live in forward, and I've done that. I've had a great board, a supportive board, not always seeing eye to eye on things, but able to collaborate openly and communicate openly and find the best solution for our town. So it is a balance. I think that anybody who's running for the seat should have experience, should have been in public service before, and this is a big role to step into with never having been on the board before.
Thank you.
As an emergency room nurse, I have served the public.
I don't think you have the floor.
Candidate Conan, how will you educate residents on what the village government can and cannot do, especially with it when it comes to funding, zoning, and large-scale projects?
Educating them on, there's so much to say that you don't realize until you get in here, but I think everybody sees Greenfield and thinks that's an area that you can just go develop. We have a lot of greenfield around Sugar Grove, and it's not viable. It's not viable, one, because Fox Metro is our sanitary district, and they just increased our fees by 29%. So if you want to be competitive in a village and attract businesses here, usually a Lennar, which we're glad we had them moving through the process before the fees went up by 29%, they're looking at other areas. They're looking at other school districts. They're trying to see where they can build and still make the same amount of money. So why do they need to come here? there's incentives that have to be done to develop these ag farmlands. And we really do, our comprehensive plan has us focused on infill. We're doing that now with Settlers Ridge, Lennar's infill. Galena Boulevard will be moving hopefully next with Ron Cope's property, as a project might come there soon. But it's developing within our boundaries and within those boundary lines that Jamie was talking about. And I'm happy to share additional information at any time about what properties are viable.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell.
Just to clarify, the question was how would you educate the community on that?
How will you educate residents on what the village government can and cannot do, especially when it comes to funding, zoning, and large-scale projects?
I think the best way is through the village board meetings, having those be visible on YouTube seems to be what works for the Canelan School Board. And then I don't believe the current village board meetings are on YouTube, but that would be good so that the residents at home could watch. But then also on the website, so when there's a proposed new subdivision, like Lennar has right now, just outlining exactly what it entails. If someone has a question, can this be done? Is it possible in this particular space? Just answering that question for them.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell. What do you believe is the most critical issue facing Sugar Grove today, and why are you the best candidate to address it?
I think the economy is the biggest threat to Sugar Grove's finances. For the past few years, there were plenty of reserves. It was also pretty good market conditions. Markets right now are at an all-time high. It does look like there's a strong possibility that that could change, and possibly even a recession would be in the future. So we want to make sure that we're really financially prepared. President Conan said that many of the funds in the $20 million reserves are already earmarked. 50% of that is earmarked for a village hall. I don't think we should spend 50% of the reserves on one project, and I think that has to be reevaluated so that more remains in savings.
Thank you. Candidate Conan.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
What do you believe is the most critical issue facing Sugar Grove today, and why are you the best candidate to address it?
Right. I think the biggest critical issue today is really infrastructure, and not only new infrastructure, existing infrastructure in the ground. When IDOT comes through and wants to widen 47, we have $3.1 million worth of infrastructure that's perfectly functioning that has to be moved on our dime, an unfunded mandate. Those are things that happen that we have to prepare for. Maple has a water main that's been there originally that has to be replaced. Those two projects come at the same time, which is $6 million worth of infrastructure and projects. We will have to bond, absolutely have to bond, but we don't have to go to referendum to bond because we have dedicated revenue sources for that. We're not spending $10 million of infrastructure, of our capital dollars, on a new village hall. So I suggest Ms. Stillwell get herself educated on what our budget is about. No, it's not. It is a potentially, can you stop talking?
Please.
We have $10 million that a potential business might be, a village hall might be $10 million, but it's not coming out of our reserves. So we do have infrastructure projects, we do have real needs in our village, and we have to address them through the financials and additional revenue sources.
So let's move to the closing statement. We'll start with candidate Conan.
First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters, the Sugar Grove Chamber, and the Sugar Grove Library for bringing us together this evening. As your village president, my focus is on projects that enhance our residents' quality of life, diversifying our tax base to reduce the burden on you while creating a strong, connected community. The village is in the strongest financial position it ever has been, and we're doing so with less money out of your pocket. I don't know why anybody would want to change that. It has been my privilege and honor serving as the village president for the past 4 years. I'm excited for our future. I hope that we share the same vision, a community that works together so that everyone can thrive. I am seeking re-election on April 1st, and I would be honored to have your support. Together we can continue building a stronger, more vibrant Sugar Grove.
Thank you. Candidate Stillwell.
Thank you for inviting me here tonight. I never thought I would be running for public office, and I stepped up because I think I can help the village of Sugar Grove by being analytical, responsible, and true to my word. My opponent stated that she was opposed to the TIF when she was previously running and then did the opposite of what she said she would do. She also teared up during the last League of Women Voters event, talking about how much she cared about neighboring communities, but then disregarded approximately 200 people pleading with her not to sign off on the TIF-related agreements. While I am limited by contracts that are currently in place, I will do my best to adhere to the wishes of the people that live in Sugar Grove and Blackberry if I'm elected, and not follow my own goals ahead of the interests of residents. I will work with the taxing bodies, be cooperative, and hopefully bring much-needed peace to Sugar Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, this time is up for this part of the forum. Your participation as a candidate and a voter is essential to preserving the democracy we hold dear, so let's give these two a round of applause. So we have one final forum that was scheduled for tonight. There are 4 candidates running for Canelan School Board to be a school board member. Of the 4 candidates invited, 2 said no, and 1 did not reply. Candidate Aaron Lawler did respond. Because the League has an empty chair policy that prohibits participation in an actual forum, candidate Lawler will be given the opportunity of a 3-minute statement to outline his platform. Would candidate Lawler please come forward? Nope. Okay, so apparently candidate Lawler isn't here. So, for more information, please visit the nonpartisan voter guide, IllinoisVoterGuide.org, the candidates' website, as well as the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County website. We hope that everyone will vote and inspire your family, friends, and neighbors to do the same. Please consider taking advantage of early voting, which starts March 7th, since the April 1st election day falls during spring break and some of you may be on vacation. Thank you and good night.